Alright guys, so we're going to jump right in and start to learn HTML. We're going to learn all the important HTML5 tags, attributes. We'll learn how to insert images into pages, links, forms, stuff like that. And I realize that a lot of you guys probably already know some of this stuff, so feel free to skip around, skip some videos. If you want to skip this whole section altogether, that's fine. Later on, after section 3, we'll be getting into like CSS Grid and Flexbox and animations and more difficult stuff. But again, I want this course to be very friendly for absolute beginners that have never even touched HTML before. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a new folder for our HTML files. So we'll just go ahead and right click and say new folder, and I'm going to rename this to HTML Sandbox. And the idea here is for every section, or every video I should say, we're going to be touching on a different topic. So for instance, we'll look at like links and images in a video, we'll look at forms and input, and I want to have a separate file for each video and create a sandbox that you can use as a reference if you need to go back to it later on to see how a tag is structured or what attributes it takes, things like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and open this up in VS Code, in Visual Studio Code. And there's a few ways to do that. If you're on Windows, you should be able to right click and say open with code. You can do it that way. If you're on a Mac, you can drag it down to your VS Code icon in your bar down below, or you can just open up VS Code and just click open folder and then search for it. So mine's on my desktop. There it is, HTML Sandbox, and I'll go ahead and open. Alright, so we can close this up, and now on the side you can see the HTML Sandbox folder is open. So let's go ahead and create our first HTML file. And I'm basically going to create a file called index.html. Whoops, not comma, but .html. Now there's something really important for Windows users. If you are seeing a .txt here after the .html, then you have to actually change something in your folder settings. Alright, so I have a screenshot here. If you're on Windows and you're seeing a .txt, you should check this anyways to make sure that this box is unchecked. What you want to do is go to your View tab in your file manager and go to Options right here, and then click Change Folder and Search Options. You'll get a box like this that pops up, and you want to click the View tab and make sure that this is unchecked, this Hide Extensions for Known File Types. Okay, you want it to show the file extension. So just make sure that that's unchecked if you're on Windows. Alright, so I just wanted to mention that so you don't run into problems. So now we have an HTML file. So what do we do with this? We need to put in what's called an HTML tag. Okay, so HTML files are full of HTML tags which surround content. So let's take a look at how HTML tags are actually formatted. So elements are surrounded in angle brackets. So basically the less than and greater than signs. So the element here, for example, is an H1, and different elements do different things. This is a heading tag. There's actually H1 through H6, and I'm going to go over that in another video. But basically this will make this text much bigger. Okay, this here is a paragraph tag, which is just for paragraphs, just regular sized text. And notice that there's an opening tag and there's a closing tag, or a start and an end tag. And the end tag has a /. Okay, so that's how you identify the ending tag. Now there are some self-closing tags for stuff that doesn't have content inside of it, like the H1 and the paragraph, they have content inside. The BR tag is actually just a line break, so it just kind of skips a line. So there's no need to put any content inside of it, so it's a self-closing tag. It doesn't need an ending tag. Now, notice that this one has a / and this one doesn't. This is actually a remnant of XHTML, which is a derivative of HTML, and it's not used that much anymore. HTML5 is definitely the standard. That's what you want to learn. In HTML5 you could use either of these, so you can use the XHTML version with the line or the /, but you don't need to. This would be just fine. Okay, so this is how tags are structured. So what I'm going to do now is just put in a couple tags, and I want to show you how to open an HTML file in the browser. So remember, tags have an opening angle bracket, and we'll do an H1, which is a heading. We'll close that H1. And with VS Code, every text editor is different. With VS Code, it's going to end the tag for you. Okay, so notice that the ending tag was put in automatically, which is very helpful. And VS Code actually has a tool that comes pre-installed called Emmet, which you can use to type really fast HTML. And I'm going to show you some tips and tricks with Emmet as we move along. So let's put something in here. We'll just say, welcome to my website. And then we're going to go on the next line, and we're going to put a paragraph tag. Now remember, we have Emmet installed, and with Emmet we can just do P, because we want a paragraph tag, which is a P, and then we can hit enter or tab. Okay, you can do enter or tab, and it'll actually complete it for us. Okay, so it makes it very easy. If we want, an H2 tag, we can do H2 enter. If we want, let's say, an image tag, we can do IMG enter, and that will actually give us the attributes that we need. I'm going to go over all this stuff later, so don't worry about it. But just to show you that Emmet is very helpful, and it allows you to write HTML very fast. Okay, so in the paragraph, let's just say this is my very first website. Okay, so we just have a heading tag and a paragraph. Let's go ahead and save this. You can either go to File, Save, or you can just do Control S or Command S on a Mac, and that will save the file. Okay, so now let's go ahead and minimize this, and let's go into our HTML sandbox folder, and you can see we have our index.html file. Now, you might have a different icon. It's probably going to be whatever your default browser is. It could be Chrome or Safari or Edge if you're on Windows. So you just want to open this with a browser. So I'm actually going to right-click and just say Open with Google Chrome, which is my default browser. And there it is. So you can see that the H1 is a large heading, and then the paragraph is just normal size text. But this is in fact an HTML file. You can see in the URL bar here, it gives us the full path. Okay, yours will probably be different, but mine is in my desktop in HTML sandbox and then index.html. Now, of course, when you upload this to a web host, it'll be your domain name. So let's say you registered mywebsite.com, which of course is already taken, but we'll use that as an example. So this would be replaced, this file, this stuff here would all be replaced with whatever your domain is. Now, there's a reason that I called it index.html, and this name here is significant because when you call it index.html, this is your home page. If we were to upload this to a host with, let's say, mywebsite.com as the domain, if we go to mywebsite.com, it's going to load the index page. Okay, so it's very important to understand that. Whatever you want your home page, you want to call that index. And then any other page you can call whatever you want. Like let's say you had an about page that listed your company info or something like that. You could create an about.html page, upload it, and then you would go to mywebsite.com/about.html. Okay, and that would load that. But index is significant because that's always going to be your home page. All right, so now that we have created an HTML file and opened it with Chrome, in the next video I'm going to show you how to correctly structure an HTML document, because this isn't correct. There's some other things that we need to add in order for it to be a valid HTML document. All right, so we'll get into that next.